Thank you all for having me back. I think it is 2 years. And a lot's happened in those 2 years, so I just have some updates. I also have to say I did not know my elbow from my knee about native plants when I first spoke here. And you guys were so kind and open-minded about that. I think we even joked about it. So really appreciate that. And I still have so much to learn. California is vast, as you all know. I come from a very biodiverse place as well, Florida, but a completely different type of plant palette. So really enjoying getting to know California, and my family and I have settled in quite nicely, actually. So I did this talk last month for BAGNet. Does anybody know the group called BAGNet? Oh, these are your people. BAGNet means Bay Area Garden Network. And it's people who work in the public gardens within the Bay Area. We get together quarterly and we swap stories and seeds and all kinds of things. And it's just a really great group. So we had about 45 garden professionals from the Bay Area. Some came all the way down from Mendocino. And I presented this talk to them. And it was very well received. It was a collaboration with Ruth Bancroft Garden. Have many of you been there in Walnut Creek? Okay. So it's not necessarily native, but they consider it a dry, lush garden. And they have a landscape design arm, which is very unusual. In fact, I think they are the only public garden in the country that I know of that has landscape architects and designers on staff. So that was what kind of drove me to work with them.
And then let me get these little boxes out of here.
Okay.
That would be nicer.
So this is the title, From Temporary to Transformational, Leveraging Exhibitions for Lasting Garden Growth. So what we started doing, and it was really in hindsight that I realized what we were doing a couple years in. What we've been doing is using the exhibitions that we bring in, and I think when I was here last time we had ribbon exhibit, which were the copper frogs, and then last year we did the birds, which we'll talk about in just a little bit, and this year we have spirit guides. And what we've been doing is using those exhibitions to kind of drive some growth and renovations in the garden to improve the visitor and the horticultural experience. And we also use some public programs to do the same thing. And we started a concert series a couple years ago on Wednesday evenings, and that's just gone gangbusters. And it's helped us, basically combined, this has helped us double attendance and triple membership in 2 years. So it's really got traction, and people are responding to it. So what I wanted to talk about was how you can take something that might seem a little bit frivolous, maybe a little bit mission creep or off topic, and you can raise resources for those things and apply them to your own collection and improve and expand. So that's really what we've been doing the last couple years, and didn't really even realize it until I started looking back and saying, that's how we're using these. So it was this talk was a bit of a reflection. It was a kind of a tag team with, I think some of you might know Michael Wenzel. He's our curator of collections. He sometimes tunes in on Zoom. He might be on tonight, I'm not sure. And Kate Nowell. And so it was kind of the three of us that teamed up to figure out, to design this new garden. And Kate was the head of horticulture at Filoli for 10 years, went back to get her degree in landscape architecture, and then got her dream job at Ruth Bancroft Garden as the head of their design arm. So what was wonderful is that I was working with a horticulturist as a designer. So she wasn't just coming in and putting in a pretty garden. She was thinking about the functionality and the maintenance. And she was understanding kind of the rules. When you work in a botanical garden and your collection has documentation, and it is often wild collected seed and grown from that, the genetics are quite valuable. And it's a part of our story, it's a part of our conservation mission. And so we can't just put any plant in the garden. We have to be very selective about the plants that we put in the garden. And Kate definitely understood that, having her background. So why do we do things like temporary exhibits and concerts and holiday light shows and all the things that turn us into kind of an attraction, right? Wouldn't it be nice if we could just be a garden? Unfortunately, we need to appeal to a broader audience in order to become, financially sustainable and to steward the collection in the garden into the future. And so pretty much all museums and gardens and zoos and aquariums are in the same space. We're sort of competing for tourists and locals for attendance so that we can, continue to care for our collections. So we do these things because we can increase visitation, stay relevant, steward our collections, as I mentioned, grow sustainably, and that's really financial sustainability has to be part of this. Nonprofits are businesses too, We can build our donor pipeline because we can introduce new things like music and art that people are interested in, and then they get interested in the garden too. And as I mentioned, we can use these exhibitions and programs to make permanent improvements. So I'm going to talk a little bit about what we've done at Sonoma Botanical Garden, the partnership with Ruth Bancroft Garden, the kind of design and horticultural element of this project, and then some of the interpretation that we have implemented and improvements on the visitor experience. How many of you have been to the garden before? Sonoma Botanical. Okay, all of you. Field trip. So it's a really unique garden. I think everybody says that when they talk about their place, but I do think that Sonoma Botanical Garden, formerly known as Quarry Hill, is an extremely unique garden. It is, the majority of our collection is seed grown, wild collected from rare and endangered plants of temperate East Asia. And the collection began 39 years ago, so next year will be our 40th anniversary. So it was established in 1987, and it's planted in a former quarry. So there's the old quarry pits or ponds, and there's a lot of wonderful terrain. It's a good hiking garden, a little hard to get around for some, and so we do have some solutions to that, but there are parts of the garden that are kind of unreachable unless you're able to hike up. And so the new area, the expansion area, is California natives, and that was established under my predecessor in 2021 when he changed the name from Quarry Hill to Sonoma Botanical Garden and then expanded the mission to include California natives. That part really excited me when I interviewed for the job because I thought that's the future, is planting native plants. And at the very least, integrating native plants into this sort of exotic collection. So that's the area that was really, I don't like to say blank slate because there are gorgeous old oaks and all kinds of wonderful plants that are there, but in terms of a designed and intentional space, there wasn't one when it came to California natives. So the garden has been in this growth phase, as I mentioned, approaching our 40th anniversary, doing all kinds of things to try to, attract new audiences. And we're expanding our audience as well. So we're getting more families, we're getting a more diverse audience, and we're getting a younger audience too. So the overarching goal really is to continually improve the visitor and the horticultural experience, build the collections, and become really like a community hub, just a place where people come. Have you ever heard the term the third space? Yeah. So gardens, museums, shopping centers, I don't know. Okay, so this is a video that my husband created last year. It was commissioned, and one of our supporters said, you guys need a really high impact video to tell your story. And it's narrated by Ada Limon, who is the former US Poet Laureate who recently bought her childhood home in Glen Ellen. So she is a neighbor and a friend. And so she narrated the video. I apologize in advance because it's gonna be really quiet. And we're gonna try to time it so that he can play the sound back there too at the same time. And I will send out, or I will send to Virginia or whomever, a bunch of links so that you can watch it at home if you don't get to hear this very well. It is a really beautiful video, so that's why I'm sort of insisting despite the sound. You ready?
Yes.
Okay.
3, 2, 1.
Plants are essential to life on Earth. They produce the oxygen we breathe, absorb carbon dioxide, and provide food, drink, medicine, fiber, and materials that sustain us.
It's just 4 minutes, by the way.
But beyond their utility, plants offer something else deeply important. They offer beauty, joy, wonder, and a sense of well-being. A botanical garden is essentially a living museum. Documented collection of plants used for conservation, research, education, and public enjoyment. Sonoma Botanical Garden showcases rare and endangered plants from Asia, alongside an expanding California native garden and an organically farmed vineyard. Nestled in the Valley of the Moon, Sonoma Botanical Garden is a woodland experience where east meets west, flourishing with plants, pollinators, and people. The garden blends a rich history with a dynamic future. Here, education sparks inspiration, and music and art echo back to the landscape through vibrant exhibitions and public programs. Our Asian collection is a global treasure. 80% is wild collected, seed grown, and scientifically documented. It's especially rich in roses, lilies, magnolias, maples, conifers, and rhododendrons from China, Korea, and Japan. As you explore the garden, you'll discover that it's carved into a former stone quarry. Its rocky slopes, winding trails, and lush canopy create a uniquely romantic and immersive experience. Spanning more than 60 acres between the slopes of two gentle mountain ranges, the garden rises from the fertile Sonoma Valley floor. Meandering paths, tranquil water features, and shaded groves offer an oasis of calm, a place to connect with the natural world right here in the heart of Sonoma Valley.
Could you hear that at all?
Yes, that was wonderful.
If you're not sold on plants now, I don't know if you'll ever be.
You need to click off of the video, like somewhere else on the slide.
Okay. Yep.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay. So now that you know all about the garden, I'll tell you a little bit about our strategy. So I'm an educator, coming from a very multidisciplinary background. That's something Virginia and I kind of bonded over. And I've always built public programs. You know, that's what I've done in museums and gardens my whole life. And that's sort of what brings people in, right? Classes and lectures and talks and, you know, sometimes more like entertainment, like music and yoga and forest bathing. I've always done that kind of thing, and then I spent half my career in art museums and half in public gardens. So kind of integrating the two was sort of a win-win at the garden that I was at for 11 years in Florida, and that was Selby Gardens. Has anybody been there, Sarasota? Okay. It's a neotropical epiphyte collection. So Central South America, epiphytes like orchids, bromeliads, ferns. So I know lots about epiphytes. I'm still learning about my California and my Asian collection plants. But what I've learned is that it's oftentimes easier to attract funding and support for kind of arts and exhibitions than it is for conservation and environment. There's a lot of players in that space as well in this community. And so by bringing art into the garden, have been able to really increase our fundraising and our, just sort of our donor pipeline in the community. And so that's helped us, we stretch those dollars as far as we can, as you might imagine, and that's helped us not just bring in the exhibitions, but also make renovations and improvements throughout the garden. And so those are some of our strategies that we're using. And I should say that my own personal theory and philosophy there is kind of come for the art but stay for the garden. You know, we know that if people come, they're going to want to come back more often than not. I love, has anybody ever been to the APGA Museum in Sweden? Their tagline is walk in, dance out. So you get the idea. It's a little bit of a hook, you know, just bringing in something other than the plants, and then it gets people really excited about the garden itself and they want to come back and see it in all the seasons. So these are some of the exhibitions that we've done. Every winter we do a bonsai show, and we work with the Redwood Empire Bonsai Society, a wonderful group of people. The whole team just loves working with them, and we love the show. And everybody loves bonsai. They're so charismatic and so interesting. And they do bonsai a lot of California natives. In fact, I think this next show is going to be all California natives bonsai, which is going to be really cool. But it was a really good East meets West connection. And so we've done the bonsai show 3 years in a row. The first show, as I mentioned, was the copper frogs. You can't believe how much people love the copper frogs ribbon exhibit. They're anthropomorphic frogs that are human size, and they're like mowing the lawn or walking their dog or something. They're really funny and cute. And there's nothing more to it. They're just frogs doing silly things. Then last year we did Winged Wonders. Did any of you see that show? All right, great. So that's what made the cover of Public Garden magazine. So this is the publication of our umbrella organization, which is called American Public Gardens Association. There's 600 member gardens all across the country. And so, you know, getting on the cover is kind of a big deal. But what's more important, I think, is the substantial article that was run and the photos that went along with it. And the article was about how we were using art to talk about native plants and to promote native plants, right? And so that went pretty far, and we were, you know, really excited to have that in there, and that's kind of what sparked this idea about continuing to develop the California garden and using exhibitions as a catalyst. I can't find it right now, but if anybody wants to page through that later, you're welcome to. And those birds it was a commission. I commissioned a couple. They call themselves the Myth Makers, and they live in Massachusetts, and they've built about 50 of these commissions over the course of their career together. And what they did is I asked them to make California native birds out of a traditionally Asian material, which is what they use, bamboo. And so again, it was this meeting of East meets West. And the birds were just so wonderful. They look like they kind of grew up out of the ground. You know, they really kind of blended in. And there was something very beautiful about that. They felt like they were part of the landscape. And then we got to really kind of think about actually that book that y'all are reading, or that you just read, The Secrets of the...
Oh, Woodlands. Yeah.
Somebody gave me that book, and I just...
Isn't that wonderful?
It's wonderful. I love that book. But the acorn woodpecker, boy oh boy, I was kind of knocked my socks off. So, Winged Wonders, that was very much a focus on California. And then Spirit Guides, which is on right now, I'm going to get to, well, I'll come back to that. I'm going to get to that in just a minute. But Spirit Guides is the current exhibition, and the works are from a pair of Oaxacan artists. And so we'll get to that in a moment. Acoustic Sunsets, that's our concert series that we do every Wednesday, May through September. And it's just really been wonderfully received. I mean, I think it's a very Sonoma thing to listen to live music outside, have a picnic, bring your dog, bring your friends. And so we've been getting, sometimes a couple hundred people at those. And it's really helped us grow our membership and just our attendance in general. But it was in the amphitheater, which already existed. Have any of you ever been to the amphitheater space?
It's a wonderful experience. I got a table.
Oh, good.
And so I invited 5 friends to join me because we didn't want to sit on the grass at our age. And it was fabulous. We brought picnics.
Yeah.
And it was really, really fun. I did it 3 times last year.
Will you be my spokesperson? Yeah, it's fun. It's really great, and it's local music. And if you rent a table, it helps us pay the musicians, and it's just kind of full circle. But we had this existing amphitheater, which was a beautiful space, but not very well used. I think it had been used for a couple lectures years ago. And so I felt like, boy, we really need to have music here. And, we don't have a use permit, so we can't have events. But what we did is we just extended the visitor hours in the summer up to 8 o'clock on Wednesdays so people could come and enjoy these gorgeous sunsets in the garden. We don't charge anything for the concert. It's included with admission or free for members. And so we're not charging anything. We have vintners come and pouring for free. And, it's just really turned out to be this wonderful kind of synergistic program that's become a core program that it will be here forever. So after the first year, I was able to say to the board, okay, half the people that came to this were first-time visitors. This is their first impression of the garden. We need to put our best foot forward. This amphitheater needs some work. The Arbor Garden needs some work. We need to renovate. And so I requested an allocation of funds. And I'm going to show you kind of the before and after. So, there you can see we added a stairway with a railing. We also added lighting and electricity. It's both safety and ambiance. And so we made it safer, and safety is important when you're a public space, right? So the Arbor Garden, which was just up the hill, up the stairs, was so overgrown. Like, the book, The Secret Garden? Yeah. And it had good bones. You could see it was charming, but it needed to be cleaned up. It was chaotic. You couldn't tell what was special and what was a weed, you just couldn't tell. So one of my board members, and so it's hard to see here, but on the left is the before and on the right is the after. I do have a little video that you'll see that you'll be like, oh my God. But one of my board members had a landscape design company, and he donated the labor for a week. So that was huge because, that's what made it possible.
It's February 5th, 2025. This is the Arbor Garden as it stands now.
See?
Really robust vines. And
I was trying to be
kind of
polite.
Plants are a little too big for the space.
Okay, so that was before, and I said to our team, what's special in here? Tag it. And there were 9 things, other than the vines. The vines we knew we were going to keep. And so I said, can we move these? What can we do? Do we need to take cuttings? What do we need to do? Is anything super rare and endangered? We have to save it? And they said, no. So they took all the special things out, and then the crew came in and just, pretty much wiped it clean, which just needed to happen. So that was spurred because of a public program, because of the concerts. It's like, let's fix up this space so that now we have a nice place to host everybody especially when they're coming here for the first time and they're bringing friends, right? So this is Ribbit. This was Trombone Shorty and Miles Davis and forgetting the other one. But yeah, these were the very frogs with personality. So again, just this key idea here, just to reinforce that, is just using these temporary exhibits to make permanent improvements. So on your left, you see the quail couple. And that was a wonderful kind of entree into the California Oaks area. And these birds are interactive. They're so big you can go in and out of them. So they're just wonderful sculptures. They're ephemeral. They'll last about 3 to 5 years total, which is great because we're not building a sculpture garden. We're building a botanical garden. So didn't really want permanent art that was going to distract from the garden. So when we had that exhibit, it was a commission, but it was also a rental. So we had the birds, 13 of them, for 6 months. And the artist, of course, said, you can keep them if you want to buy them, you know? And so our presenting sponsor came and saw them and loved them so much and said, what do you need to keep some of them? And I said, well, I don't want to keep them all. I would keep a selection of them. And, you know, so anyway, we kind of negotiated that, and we were able to keep 7 of the birds. And so they're still there today. So most of the exhibitions come and go, but these you can still see. And the reason is we actually moved the quail up to a different space, which is behind the administration building where the owls were, the owl family. We put them up there, and the idea is we're sort of planting the seed for the nest, which is a children's playscape. So we haven't yet built that. We actually have some more fundraising to do for that, but this is a sort of pop-up temporary playscape that I hope will plant the seed for a permanent children's garden eventually at our garden, because I think that will be transformative for us and for the community. So this is a spirit guide. This is Jaguar Eagle. It's very, very regal. So these were a commission by the Denver Botanic Gardens. They engaged Jacobo and Maria Angeles, who are from Oaxaca. They make these large spirit guides. Actually, they usually make small ones. And many of you have heard of alebrijes. They look like alebrijes, but they're different. They're from the Zapotec calendar, so it's a different indigenous belief system. It's a little bit like a zodiac, where you're sort of born with one spirit and then another one kind of comes to you, and these spirits arrive in the form of animals. And so they made 8 of these. Now they usually, for the smaller ones, they hand carve them and then they hand paint them, and you know they're small, medium, large. These are 8 or 9 feet tall. So these are actually, this was a whole new process for them. They are made out of fiberglass, and so they had this whole different process where they sculpted styrofoam with a chainsaw, and then cast them, and then built them out of fiberglass, and then they're all hand painted. So there's 8 of them. One of the reasons we chose this is not only were they so bold and beautiful and joyful and playful, which was quite different than the birds, right? The birds, like I said, they felt like they were part of the landscape. These are a real intervention. So it's like kind of playing with, what does sculpture in the landscape look like and feel like? But the California Floristic Province, as you know, dips down into Mexico. And so we thought, well, this is an opportunity for us to firmly decide what does a California native garden mean to us, okay? And it's California Floristic Province, but not the whole thing, because not all of that will grow here, right? But that gives us kind of a really wide, broad parameter to help establish what this collection is going to be. And I should also say that, I think it's 35 or 40% of Sonoma County is of Hispanic heritage. And so it was also a really nice way for us to acknowledge that part of our community and how important that culture is. None of us would have the food that we eat, the wine that we drink, any of those things without our Latino community. And so this was I have to say, it does sort of feel like a love letter to them. And the pieces are being out in the landscape, it just feels very connected to the land, which that community is distinctly connected to the land. So this is our map on the right, and this is kind of what we do. We walk the site, with the artists or the curators or whoever we're working with, and we cite the pieces about a year before they come to us. It takes quite a while to pull all this together. But you can see where the red letters are. That's along the California Trail. So we really decided to center these in the California section. Again, giving people a reason to go through that section, which in the summer sometimes you need a little incentive because it's hot and sunny. And people are often used to just going straight up into the Asian garden the way they used to go. So we want to kind of reroute the visitor choreography and introduce this native section. And so these are all found along the California Trail there. It also gave us an opportunity to deepen our interpretive levels, and I'll get to that in a minute. And it gives us an opportunity to, again, improve the entry area into that California oak section. So the quail were right there, so people knew to go there. As soon as we moved the quail back to the admin building, everybody's walking up the service road again. So like, we really need something that's distinctive, ideally a big garden that people will know to walk through here, but the sculptures help too. So the idea of this renovation was really as a backdrop for the sculptures, right? But then something that could live on afterwards. So we talked about this, the California Floristic Province, which covers 70% of this enormous state. So it's such a huge plant palette. This is rabbit deer, really beautiful. And rabbit deer, this is actually rabbit deer in Oaxaca. The landscape looks remarkably similar at different times of the year, but we have rabbit deer in the oak woodland, and it's a perfect spot. And very much a prey animal. You see rabbit deer when you walk up, and the eyes are a little bit crazy. But really very on guard. So we had just 3 months to do this project because we had to wait for the new fiscal year for funding purposes. So that starts January, and then the exhibition was opening April 9th, and so we had January, February, March to get this project done, which is a very fast project for the size of it. And that was one of the reasons we chose to work with Ruth Bancroft Garden, because they could move at our pace and they could help us outsource what we needed to outsource. And they kind of understood we're opening on this date, it all has to be done, We also received two sizable bequests last year from 2 of our board members. And so we decided the board voted to put half back into our investments and half into projects. And so that's why we had some resources for this. So this is the before. You can see where people are walking is the California Oaks Trail. You can see how they might easily go on the other path, the service road. And that's a lot less pleasant to walk along. And there's roads and golf carts on it. So this is a real kind of Blake slate. This used to be, you could see a horse barn up there on the left, and there was a horse pasture. Turns out that's a good place to put a garden because it was super fertile. I mean, it smelled like horse manure for weeks out there. We were like, this earth is really fertile. So it's a very fragmented space, and also, I think, underutilized and underwhelming. You walk into the Asian garden and it immediately feels like you're transported. You walk into our California section, it takes a little bit more work, and that's not because California plants aren't beautiful, it's because we haven't designed and curated a wonderful garden yet. We're working on it. Okay, so, and I will say also, the horse pasture and the overflow parking made the soil extremely compacted, so it turned out to be a really big project. This is the landscape design services through Ruth Bancroft Garden. It started off very simply. I filled one of those design inquiry forms out, and they called me and they said, "You're another garden and you want to use our services?" Like, they were really excited about that because usually they do residential and commercial projects. So we did some real science experiment soil testing. Where we extracted soil from the area, shook it all up. It took days for it to settle, and eventually figured out that it was extremely clayey, and it was going to need a lot of amending. And so we amended by ordering 250 tons of lava rock. we stopped the shipment after 190 because it was so much. I said, there's no way we're going to use all this. These are the original plans. Some of you know April Owens, of course, from Habitat Corridor Project, and April was our kind of our first partner in this project. And this is the garden around the Welcome Center. And so that was growing in, that's growing in really beautifully because now that's like 2 years old, so it's looking really great. But we just wanted to expand it across the road a little bit. So again, we wanted to refine and strengthen our collections, expand that native demonstration garden, improve the visitor flow, and support the exhibition, of course. So this is what we did, and the designer, Ruth Bancroft, could do all these nifty designs where she would like overlay it over an aerial picture, and we could really see how it would take shape over time, and where we should place the trees and the shrubs and all the good stuff. So, we thought a lot about aligning our collection strategy. So if you come to the garden, it feels a little more like an arboretum. It's a lot of trees and shrubs and not a lot of herbaceous material. And so we thought we should do trees and shrubs, and some herbaceous material. But mostly perennials, so that, again, low maintenance. We have one gardener working in this section, so, and a lot of volunteers, by the way. And then we wanted to think about, again, spatial structure, but then also interpretation, so helping people understand what they're seeing. Doing a little bit of upgrades where we added some edging so that we call them cues to care. If you have edging, seating, and signs, people suddenly go, oh, I'm supposed to be here. What am I looking at? So we started to kind of add some of those elements. Otherwise, our garden is a little wild. So it did help us grow our collection. We added a lot of new accessions to the California collection. We focused on climate appropriateness, water-wise elements, long-term maintenance, as I mentioned, and then really just establishing the parameters for what our garden will become. So we had some really tight timelines, January to March, as I mentioned. Coordinating was a really critical part because you had 2 botanical gardens working on it and then multiple vendors working on it. So it kind of like brought our team together, I think, a little bit more closely, which was nice. And then just thinking about, beyond the exhibition, what was going to remain. So these are always fun to get when you get these sketches and you try to start to understand what all the little abbreviations are for and where they're going to go. And we still have a kind of a temporary seating space because we've been working with an arborist who's helping us salvage wood, and then another group that's milling and kilning the salvaged wood on the property. And so we want to make some really beautiful benches, but they're not dry enough yet to put them in the kiln. So there's phasing of these projects. But this one will be named for Jerry Newell, who was a longtime board member who passed away unexpectedly last year and left us a significant gift. So this will be Jerry's garden. He loved California so much, and he had a beautiful home in Calistoga that burned to the ground in the fires. So he was a big proponent of water-wise and native gardens. So I think he would be happy with it. The designer also used something. Have you ever seen this Plant Master? This is a really cool website. You can design your garden. You can design your plant palette. And it's just as easy as clicking and moving things around. It was really, really great tool. So that was a way that she could say, hey guys, what do you think about these? What do you think about these? And all of us could just check the same thing and go, yes, yes, no, no, I think this would work, or how about that one? So that was a really cool tool. And then just generally in design, designers think of things a little bit differently than the rest of us do. And when she came in, she was really looking at the whole landscape, what were people gonna see beyond this garden? And I have to say, oh yeah.
Is April, is that the she you're talking about?
No, this time we worked with Kate Nowell from Ruth Bancroft. It was a kind of botanical garden partnership. And we have a very messy neighbor. Does anybody have a messy neighbor? Well, so she kept looking at the neighbor across the way and saying, you know, we got to put in some trees and shrubs here. We need to mask some of this. It's not charming to look at all that equipment, you know. So it was great to work with somebody who kind of sees things that way. And, you know, thinking about as it grows in, how's it going to look and how's it going to feel? Is it going to be inviting to stroll through? The Asian garden's pretty inviting to stroll through. I don't think our California section will ever be quite that dense, and we won't have the same, you know, botanical collection initiative that we had before. It's a very expensive thing to do, is go out and seed collect and grow. But just, yeah, thinking about how do you live with these spaces? How do they live on beyond? So then these are some of the conceptual images that the designer shared with us, like, do you want a meadow? And we said, yes, we want a meadow. And then she said, can you maintain a meadow? And we said, no, we can't maintain a meadow. You know? And so we scaled that back. Like, it was just those kinds of conversations that were super helpful. And the picture in the lower left, it's just some sort of stock image, but it actually looks a lot like our landscape and the entry to our California section. And, you know, we have kind of three, this is an oversimplification, but we have kind of three distinct habitats in the California section. We have an oak savanna, an oak woodland, and then a chaparral. And so eventually we want to be able to tell those stories, you know, in this section. And it's nice because it's a 1 mile walk and you get to see these three distinct habitats. They need fire fuel reduction, they need burning. We have a lot of work to do in that area. So these were good conversations to think about the long run. We were also talking about surfacing and accessibility. We ended up actually not having the time and resources to do much of this work, but it's on our radar for future projects. And then seating, as I mentioned, you know, we'd like to create a beautiful memorial bench, maybe something like on the left for Jerry. That'll be a place where people can pause and enjoy the plants. So in the end, it really kind of came down to like the power of partnering with somebody else who had the skill set, resources and ideas, and understood the kind of the need to maintain it beyond the design. How often do designers come in and design something and walk away, and then it's not something that you can keep up. And it helped us speed up the process because it was a very fast turnaround. And I will say this also, that gardens, working in gardens, you guys know this, you're all gardeners, these are collaborative people. Gardeners share. That's what we do. It's sort of the nature of the business, and the industry is the same way. That's why I left art museums. When I went to a public garden, I was like, oh, these are my people. This is so much more comfortable. So working across institutions, you know, making sure we were communicating clearly with everybody. We also did a cross-promotional press release, which I have here if anyone's interested, but it does kind of give all the nuts and bolts of what the project was. We also donated like a VIP auction package for their gala. You know, I should say Ruth Bancroft Garden loved this project so much they waived their fee. And they said, if we want this to be a real partnership, we'll give you something and you'll give us something. And so we've given their members reciprocal access to the concerts, which usually there's an exclusion at the concerts. So it's been really, really nice working with them. And now we've just written an article together and submitted it to Public Garden for hopefully for this coming November. Yeah. That's the press release. We haven't gotten a whole lot of traction on it, but that's okay. Sometimes you just put it together and someone might pick it up and they might not. So here are the things that, you know, kind of remain beyond. I should mention, oh, this is coming up here. Okay, so some of the layers of interpretation that I kind of keep nodding towards but not really going into. I also had a grant from a foundation in the city that they were interested mostly in educational elements and interpretive elements of the garden. And so this was our chance to bring in a person who specializes in this. And so this was someone I used to work with at Selby. She's become kind of an interpretive specialist for public gardens. So even though she lives in Florida and knows Florida plants very, very well, she has the right kind of aptitude and the interest, you know, and knows how to dig and research and identify. So we put together this brochure. And the brochure, there's some back there. It's a power plants framework. So we chose a dozen of our kind of favorite California natives that we've been nurturing in our demonstration garden for the past couple years, and also chose to put into the expansion that anybody can start to integrate into their garden. You don't have to tear out your maples, you can just start putting in some natives. And so we wanted it to feel very much like, very user-friendly for people who are thinking about putting natives in their garden. So we created this brochure. Has anybody here ever used the Bloomberg Connects app? It's an app that's made mostly for museums, or I should say collections-based organizations. There's about 1,000 institutions on the app. There's only about 50 gardens that have participated. And it's through Bloomberg Philanthropies, and it's completely free for all the museums and gardens that use it. They send you the recording equipment, they do the post-production. It's really quite amazing. You have to go through a training cohort. And so we decided to create a Bloomberg guide about the garden. We've added the California native information to that. There already existed one for the Spirit Guide show, so that's on there. So now we have a lot of rich, dynamic content on our app, and you can go around and you can click a QR code, or you can download it and just walk around. And our curator actually narrated a tour, so you can walk around with Michael telling you all about the garden, which is great. Next, we'll do a tour script and training for volunteers to give tours through the California section, and eventually we'll do some signage. So it's just helping us kind of deepen the layers of engagement with California native plants. And this is the brochure. You can see it kind of folds out. It's pretty robust. And this is information about the Bloomberg Guide. It's very easy to use, by the way, and it's offered in multiple languages, so that's another way that we can be more accessible.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Have you considered including ethnobotanical information on the plants?
Virginia asked about ethnobotanical information. Yeah, I think eventually we will. I think we'll probably work with the indigenous people in the area. That it's been kind of a pacing and a timing thing. So we kind of wanted to just lay down some layers first and establish like what exactly are we talking about. But yeah, I think people are very interested in ethnobotany.
And so even for the Asian plants, it would be fascinating.
Yeah. Yeah, the Asian plants, my goodness, there's a lot there. You know, a lot of edible plants, a lot of medicinal plants. Some of them are edible but not palatable. Some of them will give you a tummy ache. I always tell people, please don't eat anything when you're walking around. But yeah, I think ethnobotanical information would be a great layer. Yeah. So we talked a little bit about that we've doubled attendance and tripled membership in 2 years. So it is helping us increase our revenue streams and expand and kind of diversify that. But it's also improving our collection. So we're going to keep going on that. You could see here kind of where we came from in 2023. We had just under 14,000 people. And last year, and actually this number is incorrect, it's closer to 29,000. Yeah. And then we went from 500 households. Now I think we have like 1,550 or something like that. So it's good, and we're hopefully just going to keep on growing. So again, there's those quail. They're so good. We had to keep them. And this is part of our team, all hiding behind redwood trees here. That was our holiday card. Yeah. So it's like I said, it's helped us kind of move forward with the California section, establish what it is, and continue to grow it and establish more partnerships and support for it. This is coyote fish. He's really darling. When we installed him, it started raining.
Oh.
So again, just aligning with strategy, designing for permanence and long-term, collaborating, cross promotion, and then just having a beautiful backdrop for these sculptures that lives on beyond. So we talked about what would we do differently. We would have more time and money. Isn't that what everybody wants? A little more time and a little more money. The best advice I ever got when I was just a young person going to travel, my aunt said, take half the stuff and twice the money. Yeah, I think some of this is redundant. When I did this before, it was me, Michael, and Kate, so there was like a different cadence. But I think you get the idea here. And do you guys have any questions? Concerns?
You started talking about the amphitheater
Uh-huh.
and kind of left it in the middle. What happened? What did you do?
Oh.
Or what are you doing?
Yeah, so the amphitheater, it needed a stairway for safety reasons, so we added a stairway. We also, oh, good timing, my battery is running low, but that's okay, I think.
Plug it in just in case.
Okay. We added a stairwell and electricity and lights, mostly for safety. All of those improvements were for safety. And, but we pretty much left everything else the same. We had to resod it. It was a blue fescue, which was beautiful and water-wise, but it got really beat up the first year. So we had to actually put sod down, which we weren't, too happy about, but it's turned out to be a decent solution, so, yeah. We also cleared out a lot of the understory, actually, that was on the west side, so that we cut some sight lines so you could see the sunset in the valley.
Where is it on the property?
Oh, it's in the Asian garden. So do you know where the Arbor Garden is, which is, it's really the only formal space in the whole Asian garden. The Arbor Garden is in the round, and it has 3-foot deep dry stack stone walls, and it has a big redwood arbor with vines all over it, and then the amphitheater's just down the stairs. If you didn't know it was there, you might miss it. Yeah, yeah.
Do the stairs have a railing?
Yeah,
Oh, cool.
yeah,
Oh,
Great.
yeah.
yeah, and if you would come to the acoustic sunset concerts, you should say, there is a electric cart
Yes.
that will take
Really?
you
Yes,
there. So
thank you.
You may only have to walk 10 feet to your
Yeah.
table if you
That's
get
right.
one, or a few more feet if you're going to sit on the
You really do
rail.
need to be my spokesperson. It's true, it's actually the most accessible program that we
Right.
have,
That's
because we
great.
run the carts the whole night,
Ooh.
just taking people up and down. I will tell you though, 3 of our 5 carts are down right now. So we just had to rent one. If anybody has an extra $20,000 sitting around and want to get us a cart, we would love it, because we need one badly.
Yeah.
I did I went and somebody brought an ice chest.
Yeah.
And she rented the table that time. And so we didn't want to carry that thing up the hill.
Yeah.
So we used the cart then. But it's for people who really are limited in
Yeah.
their access.
Yeah.
There's no problem with those carts.
Yeah.
Great.
No, that's
Oh,
right.
it's so good to hear.
Yeah. So I hope y'all will come. Maybe you'll
Oh, yeah.
do a night out or something together.
Sounds like
It
great
goes
fun.
through September 16th.
Oh, good.
Yeah, so we're doing 18 nights.
And so the Oaxacan, how long is it Oaxacan?
The sculptures, the spirit guides are up till September 7th.
Oh, good.
So that's my birthday. That's just a coincidence, but. And on the back, I also have information about our collections and quick facts about the garden, so if you're interested.
How much of the 60 acres is planted? How much?
That's a good question. How many of the 60 acres is planted? So 13 acres are Cabernet Sauvignon vineyard as you first drive in. So you could say those are planted. The Asian garden is 25 acres, and that is pretty densely planted. The California section is 22 acres. It's not going to all add up because there's some parking lots and that sort of thing in there. And I would say at the moment of the 22 acres, what is intentionally planted or cultivated, less than an acre of that. Yeah. Yeah.
Less than 1 acre?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, of the 22 acres, that's the California section, I would say just about less than an acre has been designed and planted.
Oh, okay.
But there's oak trees.
Yes,
Open fields.
that's right.
It's
There's a
just
lot
that-
of
yeah.
natural spaces and landscapes, but what have we designed, curated, and planted? Just really around the Welcome Center, probably about an acre. Lots of salvias, lots of manzanitas. We have some of Betty's manzanitas. They're doing great. The Vine Hill.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're doing great.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How can we get copies of the articles in that?
In this one?
Yeah.
I'm gonna email you guys.
Okay.
Do I email it to you?
That'd be fine.
Okay. I'm gonna email you just some links with
Oh, good.
things. This I'll send to you as a PDF because if you're not a member of American Public Gardens Association, you can't open it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's behind a paywall. And I'll send you all the stuff.
Okay.
Okay.
Cool. People will be interested, I think.
Good. Any questions on Zoom? Do we take questions on Zoom? No? Okay.
I haven't received.
Okay. Okay, great. Well, May.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.